All right, well, my name is True Tao. I am a therapist at True Tao Counseling Services in St. Paul, Minnesota. I am meeting with these three high schoolers to try to get their perspective about health and wellness and issues that may be affecting their generations, and how do they describe these psychological issues, and where do they get help, and what are some of the barriers that may be impeding them from getting help. So with that, I'm going to go around and ask a series of questions and to get their perspective. So let me start out maybe Wish. Can you please introduce your name and your age?
My name is Xiong and I'm 15 years old.
Okay, how about you?
Oh, I'm Neng Xiong and I'm 15 years old.
Okay.
My name is Sasu and I'm 17 years old.
Good. Well, thank you for participating in this important discussion. I hope that your voice and what you share will help others who maybe struggle in silence to come out and get help so they're not suffering in silence. We know that psychological pains are invisible, but it doesn't mean that it's not painful or it's not devastating. We know that actually some psychological issues are much more devastating than physical health. So thank you for participating tonight. We're not looking for the right answer. We're looking for everything that you feel is important for us to know. Okay? Okay, so let's begin with the first question. So anybody can go first, but we will go around so then everyone has a chance to share. So the first question is, what are issues that are affecting your generation? Issues that have negative impact on your psychological well-being? Who would like to go first?
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
In our generation, there's many, there's no limitations to what could be negatively impacting people. But one I would say is the new age of technology, where kids can pretty much explore anything online now. And there's been, trends and styles that have influenced kids to, change themselves or influence to do bad things, or just takes a toll on their mental being, because sometimes they see standards that they don't live up to, and that's something that that just takes a toll on the mind when you feel like you aren't good enough in that position.
Any particular trend or any particular bar that you were talking about that they have to live up to?
I guess body image is definitely one that's very important to many people. Many kids these days, I would say, don't like their body image and try to change themselves. There's other kids who there's fashion trends where they feel like if they don't have trendy clothes, they're not cool, or there's just many different things that are looked at as cool that many people don't, aren't at the same, but it shouldn't matter if things are considered cool or not.
Yeah, adding on to Lydia's point, I do think social media does paints a perfect picture that is realistically not reachable or is extremely hard to reach because, like Lydia said, there are trends and fashion stuff that aren't particularly easy to reach or body standards.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. Social media, this generation has a big impact because everybody can get social media so easily. And the thing is, when people go on social media and see other people, people tend to compare what they see on social media with them quite a bit. So it just makes them do or things that they feel like it's necessary when it's really not. And it's okay to be already what you are instead of trying to chase what you saw, what you want to be. I'm not saying that if you see a really good inspirational person doing something good, you want to be like that too. But like, you know, just when things come down to like really influence others to do things really easily without having a second thought on maybe what the consequence could be.
So one of the things that I see a great deal of struggle or frictions between kids and their parent nowadays is the balance of playing video games or being on social media and balancing that with the bigger picture of schoolwork or doing something physical or being part of family. I don't think parents are against video games or all that, but the question is, how do you balance that? Do you guys see that as an issue for young people in terms of balancing that?
Yeah. It's pretty common that, you know, sometimes parents and kids, they don't agree, because I just feel like there's like so many things now in the future that's moving so fast, while you know, some parents are like still behind, and I guess sometimes still traditional, and I guess they just don't understand each other, being in different times, and not like, there just needs to be like understanding and I guess conversation about it.
Yeah, definitely when kids are like younger or still young teens, I feel like there's too many things in life where truly you would like really know how to balance everything until like maybe a certain point. But just like, I feel like, you know, like as where we are right now in our age, it's we're still learning to balance and juggle everything, and like it's still gonna be like this until when we're like 20 or 30, because as we grow older, just more and new things gonna come our way, get thrown at us. So yeah, balancing things and making sure everything is steady is definitely.
So Lydia, you use the word, I want to go back. You say parents are traditional, and so they and the kid, it seems like there's a gap. What do you think are those gaps? What are things that are creating gaps between the kids and the parent?
I feel like maybe a while ago there was a certain dream that most parents would want, you know, is go to school, go to college, have a good job, have a good family. But kids these days, there's so many things that influence them to do different things. There's so many new opportunities and jobs. Like, there's just so much that's possible now that other kids want to do that their parents sometimes don't agree with. And it's like, it's hard for the change for the parents and the kids, because they just, it's just different timing, and it's hard to understand each other.
Are there any other issues? I hear technology, I hear social media, I hear that the young people's way of thinking how they're going to put their life together is very different from their parent. So there are differences in that. What are other issues that young people now are facing that may have psychological impact, on negative psychological impact? What are other things?
There's just many things in the world that, like, from school to family, that can take a toll on people. Yeah, I don't know what to explain on that.
Sure, any thoughts?
I would say, like, other than that, I would say, like, more specifically, maybe like their own identity, either their sexuality or their gender, and other things like that. Like how Lydia said, some parents might be traditional. They could have like an argument about that, and yeah.
So I hear that word a lot, traditional. What does that, in your mind, explain what does that mean? Because as an older, I'm 56, I don't know what traditional means. So what does that mean?
I would say, like, more specifically our community, a lot of, like, I would say, like, Hmong people are traditional. Not saying that is bad or anything. It's just that they're just two different, like, types of people. So, like, saying, like, the new generation and the old generation, so there could be a lot of conflict and, like, new ideas. And for, like, adults, it could be harder to, like, to just suddenly, like, have new, bigger ideas about things that you've always had, like, a specific opinion about. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a really big problem.
What a specific issue that your peers, your friend or schoolmate are experiencing that are like stressors? What are some stressors that your generation are feeling right now?
Well, me personally, I see how one stress and mental health can really affect another person, and it's kind of like spreads across everyone. It's like when you try to be there or help someone, but it's a bit too much for you, then it causes problems for your own, and it repeats the same. Someone try to help you, and then you start to generate problems of your own, and that person can't help you, then especially that person, and it continues. Just me personally, what I seen, experienced, but.
So you're saying that at your age, if your friend has a mental health issue, by trying to help, it can be very stressful for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm like concerned about my friend's health too, like where like I don't want to be a burden or too much for someone sometimes.
Okay.
And yeah.
What do you think are causing mental health issue for your generation? You guys named some stuff. Generational issue between family members, parents and kid, trying to live up to certain trends and certain expectation. Low-side society is moving very fast nowadays. You can't stand still and then you'll miss the boat. What are specific things that may be affecting mental health?
I feel like on like the fast part, some kids are probably like trying to like get really successful very like quickly and easily for like, you know, the money or things like that.
So I hear you talk about I hear you talk about sexuality, gender. I also just hear you talk about materialistic stuff. That young people can be easily drawn to try to pursue these material, and sometimes in that process lose themselves, right? Okay. Any other thoughts? How about family? Are there family issues, substance use issues? How about someone who's not well in the family?
From my experience, I do have some friends around who just they don't get along with their family. It just sometimes they feel like they have to take control of everything in the house, whether that includes like babysitting or like trying to pay bills for their house or trying to balance school life and their jobs. Sometimes parents aren't there for that, or sometimes parents aren't capable of helping their children, and it just takes a toll on the children who do have to do a lot in the household. And yeah, I feel that I have a lot of friends who have stress on themselves because they feel like they need to do a lot.
So some of the young people are asked to do too much for their age. And it's very stressful for them. Okay, that's really important. The reason I ask this is that in my career, I've been a therapist for 31 years. Absent parent is exactly what you said, that parents are not around, so sometimes the kids are left to kind of become the parent in some way. There are violence in the family, substance use in the family. Someone's very sick, mom and dad, one of their loved ones very sick. There are a lot of time very traumatic, very terrible thing happen to them, and they can't talk about it because they fear about shames and rejections. And so, do you think these things happen to your generation?
Yeah, I feel like it's been happening for a while, a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next question is, unlike physical pain, emotional pain is invisible. And yet the pain is very real, and the impact is devastating. So how do people of your generation talk about emotional pain?
I would say either to like the people they know is one, but a lot of people, like again in social media, they often try to reach out to other people because social media is a much faster way to reach out to millions of people. So it's much easier to reach out, like a message. Yeah.
Like with what Shua said, someone that we know, I feel like people usually talk about their emotions and what they're going through with someone who they feel comfortable with. Someone.
So would that be friend?
Yeah, friends.
Do they talk to mom and dad or no?
It could be too, but sometimes.
What do you think the likely chance of talking to mom or dad or friend first?
I feel like it's more unlikely they talk to their family first. Just
Unlikely, right?
Yes.
Why is that?
Maybe sometimes the problem could be drawn from that, or.
Okay. So sometimes if the stressor is from the family, it's hard to talk to them about that. Okay.
They might be less understanding depending on like what family you come from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because they don't care, or do you think that because sometimes parents don't know what to do either?
Maybe more of like they don't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I'm, as a therapist, I hear sometimes the kids are afraid to tell the parent, but sometimes when they're not afraid to tell the parents, sometimes don't understand because they don't know what to do. But sometimes the assumption from the kids that they won't understand anyway, so we won't talk either. So it's between the one who's suffering has to be willing to take the chance to share, and then the people who are there to help, sometimes they don't know what they have to say. I don't know how, but I'll be willing to help you to the next level, right? Yeah. I see a lot of young people cutting because sometimes they don't know what to do, what to say. So I see people cut. What are other way people exhibit what that they're hurting? Besides cutting, what else are young people doing that we should be looking for, we should be watching out for?
Sometimes they don't eat. Sometimes sometimes they don't eat. They have suicidal thoughts. They attempt suicide. Sometimes, self-injury too.
Self-injury.
Suicide.
Suicide.
I used to be a friend with someone who used to commit or self-injure themselves too. And it was really hard because I tried to be there, but at the same time, it was just really hard. But
It's very frightening for you too because you don't know what to do. What happens if they succeeded, right? So yeah.
So it's just a lot of self-injury, whether it's it's as much as sleeping too, because sleeping is very important. So some people lose sleep, just a lot of self-injury or self-harm. Sometimes they don't know it too.
So I hear you say very important keyword. People don't eat, people sleep a lot, or people don't sleep, right? People do self-injurious things, right? Or when in most severe case, they try to harm themselves because out of desperation, they don't know what to do, right? So it's some the way that, so even though they can't share what's happening inside, that's how they convey that they're in a lot of pain, right? Okay, what else? What are your other perspectives?
I would say like drugs, either medical or illegal drugs.
Okay.
Because I always hear from either social media or the people around me that I know, like for example, coworkers that vape or do drugs or take illegal substances, even though they're underage. And personally, I don't agree with that, but yeah.
So they self-medicate, we call it self-medicate. They find a way to kind of numb those things because they're struggling. So that is why a lot of people turn to substance use because sometimes they did not start out to be intentional to use drug, but they use it as a way to cope with things, but then eventually they became addicted to that too. Yeah. So what other way, Lydia?
I feel like people, when they have emotional pain or stuff, they take it out many different ways, whether it's through their actions, through art, or through whatever. But I feel like there's many ways people can express their pain.
So I like what you said. So those are positive things. So some people, when they're in pain, sometimes they can deal with those pain through art, so doing other positive thing too, right? Those are coping skill too, right? Good. The reason I ask this question is I know that emotional pain is invisible and words are hard to describe. When you have a broken bone, you can say, look at this piece, it's broken and it's hurt. But when you are so depressed that you are sleeping all the time or you can't sleep, you're too tired, you're too agitated easily, you don't want to go to school, You just want to scream, noise, but you can't pull it out. It's not visible. But the pain is so real, you don't know what to do. And the reason I ask that question is, we want to know, in particular, a person like me who is a therapist wants to know what to look for, so that I know that these are signs that you are not doing well inside. That's why I asked that question. Okay. Now, this question, some of you talked a little bit about that. For your generation, when things are not going well, who do you normally reach out for help? So I hear that you talk to a friend, you express yourself in social media to other colleagues. What other way do you get? What else do you use for to get help?
Many kids these days feel like they usually try to reach out to therapists and try to get mental help, but sometimes it's just not available because they don't have the money or their parents aren't willing to get them a therapist as well. Yeah, I would say I usually reach out by like talking to a close friend, just because I have trust in them. They have support in me, which is really nice.
So you said a key word, trust. So you normally go the route where you trust someone first. Okay. Do you trust teacher to go?
It depends on the bond that I have with that teacher.
Why not parent? Parents are supposed to be your inner circle, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say like I said before, depending on which family you have. If you have like a more understanding parents, it might be a lot easier. But oftentimes, they aren't understanding again, and because most of the time they live with you, it might feel like weird or awkward. Or some kids might feel that way.
To extend on that, it's just sometimes there would be moments where you do tell your parents something, but they do neglect, like they don't take it as seriously as the child would take it, and it just like sometimes hurts the child. Or when I guess there's manipulation too, and makes it think that it's like the child's fault when they want to do something.
Sure.
Or it's just sometimes hard to talk to parents because there's like a disconnect, and sometimes you just don't understand each other, and it's a big misunderstanding.
So if you guys were to talk to the parent, let's say that if the three of you were to sit here and educate the parent about children so that they would understand, what would you say to them? What would you say to them so that they could be more slow down when the kids say something and be more listening, be more in tune with the kid? What would be important messages that you think they should know? What would that be?
Well, I wouldn't expect them to understand right away. So one thing I'd tell them is just, I would say like, right now I'm feeling something very heavy, and I guess the best thing you can do is just listen to it, and don't give like no negative backlash. Just listen to me, take it in, and just think about it. And once I'm in a better state, maybe sure we can have a conversation about it. But as of right now, I don't expect you to understand right away or something like that. So it's just the best thing you can do is just to sit here and listen and take it all in.
So you say two words that's important for me. One is to be present, and to just give me your attention and listen to me. That's key, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you two? What would you say to a parent if we ask you to educate other parents so that they can learn to calm down and try to be attentive and be in tune with their children? What would you tell them?
Just like what Sasu said, just like listen.
Listen.
Just be patient.
Patient,
and,
listen.
Just think about it. Like, yeah.
Think more about what the kids are saying. Okay, instead of keep on giving advice back, maybe just stop and just listen more and be present more. Okay, Lydia, anything to add?
To extend, it's just to keep an open mind, because you know, something might not be insignificant to you, but it could be to somebody else, or like you don't know like what you're hurting or who you're hurting when you say something, or there's you know, just many like ways to interpret something, that just keep an open mind and like hear it out and think about it more than just assume something right away.
So try to see if they can be in the kid's shoe rather than interpret from their own age and their own experience. Okay, wonderful. So I hear for this question, where or who do you normally reach out to for help? You guys talk about friend, some circumstances parent, but it sounds like friend because friend is someone you trust first, right?
Yeah, for definitely like someone who you trust, you should go and reach out. But for me personally, sometimes even though they may be my closest friend, it may have been just because they was there for me from the very start, and so it's something new for them to experience, so they don't know how to really comfort. So, but personally, me, sometimes I don't always go to my closest friend. I go to someone who can listen, who I will feel safe and be able to be vulnerable to. Yeah, that even though maybe I haven't met this person for the longest time, but just through this maybe small amount of time and getting to know each other through those experiences, could really show that there's just a good person to be comfortable around. So
I like what you said. You say vulnerability, meaning that it's risky to open up yourself, right? And so sometimes you go to people that even though you don't have the trust, but you have the distance to not feel so vulnerable too, right? So sometimes closeness does not necessarily mean you're gonna feel safe. Sometimes closeness, I think that's what you are all talking about, parents. The parent is so close that sometimes it's awkward to go tell them something so personal, because they only imagine the good side of you, so it's too vulnerable to tell them that there is a side of you that is not so good, right? But then sometimes distant with friends may provide that safety to talk about because they're not so close. So it's not so weird too, right? Wonderful. So that leads us to the next question. What are things that might prevent people of your generation from asking for help? So we talked a bit about that awkwardness, vulnerability, don't want people to see the bad side of you. What else do you think is preventing people from, I think Lydia also said something that was very important I want to repeat, that sometimes for family who may not have the necessary medical insurance, sometimes they worry about financial hardship, that if you go get help, it's going to cause financial hardship for the family, so sometimes you don't want to do that. So that's very important to repeat that. What else do you think are barriers that gets in the way of?
I feel like there's a lot and a lot of barriers and a lot of different reasons for it. But I feel like one reason is that maybe sometimes people have been like this just for so long where they're used to it, so they never really take a second thought to consider getting help. They live their life like this. Maybe sometimes they know it's wrong, but since they dealt with it like a while ago, the same thing now probably isn't like nothing too much of a bother for them, so they just continue life just being like this.
Wow. The reason I say wow to that is that that's what a lot of refugees feel, because they live through life that are very traumatic, and so sometimes the trauma becomes so much that sometimes they're numb to that, and they're not sure whether it's normal or not too. And so, so that's really, I like what you said. What are other things that you guys think are getting in the way of people getting help?
I would say like the backlash and the people's negative opinions about it, just like as I said about like social media. A lot of people can like talk badly about you over something.
Rejection. Okay. So is that vulnerability again? Feeling too vulnerable to open up yourself. Any other thought, Lydia?
I had one, but that prevent our generation. It's just sometimes in communities or families, children aren't taught about mental health, so they don't know how to get help, or sometimes they feel like they aren't in a safe space or in a safe place where they're able to show their emotions or pain if they wanted to.
I feel like sometimes people are scared too, for many different reasons. It's just a fear of getting help. And it could be like trust, because I have like sometimes some people might be like, why would I go to a therapist, like somebody that I barely know, to even though like they are a therapist and they're there to help you. Some people could just have bad experience with other people where it's not so easy to go get help from somebody that they don't know. But it could also be just a fear of opening up because they've been criticized for it.
Sure.
It could be I feel like it could be a lot of things, a lot of reasons for people to not open up.
So Lydia, I want to go back to what you said, and which go to this next question. What would be helpful for mental health professional to do to help you overcome barriers so you can get help for the things that you need? If we were to teach a mental health class to young people, like you said, what do you think, how do you think we should do that, and what do you think we should cover so that they would know what kind of tools should we give to them so that they would know how to use those tools to self-assess and be able to have the vocabulary to know that they're not well and explain, get help?
I guess it was just tell them that it's all based off on their emotion, if you're feeling not okay, I guess this question's very hard to interpret, but it's just there's many things that a person could be going through, and it's just like to look for signals that you should get help is that you feel like you don't have like a place to go to, or like you feel like you don't have an escape, or you feel like you have so many burdens on you that you can't go every day normally like you used to.
I feel like to teach younger kids, I feel like it should be introduced slow, but then introduced slowly, but then at the same time, whenever it is being introduced, somewhat make it serious. Be like, if you really need it, you should get that help. Because sometimes I feel like the longer somebody waits, the harder it is.
Celsi, what do you think we should introduce to a class of young people like you about mental health? What would be specific thing that we should make sure to introduce?
Let's say, I guess we can say about the emotions. This is I don't know if this is too specific, but give warnings. Give warnings. Be like, hey, if you've been upset, feeling down for more than a week or two, maybe have a chat with somebody or talk to someone.
So we call those symptoms. So teach them lists of symptoms to watch out for, right? So if you are so tired more than you ever done and you just can't get out of bed or go to school and you don't feel like it's normal, then it's time to talk to someone. So teach about symptoms of certain disorders so that you have some benchmark to measure yourself against, right? Okay. Sure. What do you think we should be teaching young people in their language, in your generation, so they would know? If you guys would design a curriculum to teach mental health for young people,
I would say do stages, how you said, vulnerability and other things, go forward with those specific topics, and just like go over with it and be like specific about like being vulnerable and other topics like that.
Yeah. So let me summarize if I get. So one way to teach is about maybe the process of getting help. Because when you are going to talk to a therapist who is a stranger at first, that person is going to ask you a lot of questions, so you're going to open up yourself. So talk about the process of therapy, maybe. That it is a frightening process because you have to give out a lot of information about yourself, so you open up, right? So talk about that process and how frightening it can be, and why do we need to tell you all the things about yourself to a stranger, right? Then also talk about disorder, like for example, teach depression, like someone have depression, no matter whether you're Somali, you're Hmong, you're Cambodian, you're Korean, each culture may call it different thing. We might call it, Hmong might call it maybe bongpli, like you lost your soul. American might call it depressed. A Somali might call something different. But those of us who work, we know that the symptom of depression, no matter what culture you come from, is the same. Like you can't sleep, or you sleep too much. You're too tired, more than you under normal tiredness, right? You're really tired. You suddenly don't have any concentration. You don't enjoy the thing that you used to enjoy. You just don't want to do anything. Little thing bother you so much. Things like that. These are classic signs of depression. So if we teach young people, like if you have anxiety, you have all of these, and they're not just for a couple of minutes, but they last for weeks and months, and it's devastating to the point that you can't do the thing that you normally can do, then that's the time for you to get help, right? So that's what you're saying, to teach very specific symptoms, list of symptoms, and how it's affect your functioning, right? Okay. What are other things that we should be talking about when we talk about young people like you guys? That it's important that you feel like maybe adults don't understand, that we need to give a voice to young people like you.
I would definitely say the influences. For example, like in school, there could be like a more popular kid, or like
more what?
More popular kid.
More popular kid?
Yeah, and people and kids could be like really influenced around this specific person when they should be focused on themselves. Like they might want to have what this person has, but doesn't, because
So I like what you say so much, sure. How do we teach kids to value themselves and to start thinking and only what they have rather than wish for, and go through that struggle? Is that what you're saying? That sometimes the kid lose themselves because what they're not thinking is about themselves, but thinking about something that they can't have, right? How do you think we can teach kids more about that, about empowering themselves, that encourage the voice that they have or who they are, to focus on their own strengths? How do we teach that?
I think it's,
Oh, I don't have.
I think it's very important for the parents to give the kids that reassurance, that shield of like, you could be there, or you could be even better, or like maybe if it's not even that important, reassure that kid like there is like even though that kid may be really popular, just because of a certain thing, you got something that's way more stronger that most people don't realize, you know. I feel like it's a lot more powerful too when it comes from a parent, because your parent is the one who like kind of you look up to, and it's like someone who you listen. So I feel like it's important for the parent to tell that kid, or build that kid's confidence, and like grow that kid's self-esteem.
So you're saying that it's important for parents to reinforce what they see that are good in their kid, the asset, the strong stuff, the strong attribute of their kids continually, so that those messages will sink in, saying, people see me with these strengths. So that yes, that person had a lot of wonderful attribute, but my parent also and my friends say I have all of these too, right? So it's a constant reminder of positive attribute is helpful, and it starts from the home on. Okay. Lydia, anything to add?
I guess for kids to just, or what Sasa said, is just, you know, the encouragement of parents and the reassurance that could help a lot with the kids and how they're feeling about themselves. Yeah.
Anything at all I missed that we should be talking? That if you are the voice, I like what you guys said, is how do we empower the young people like you to be a voice for all the young people instead of old people like us? What would you say to young people about their health and wellness and their ability to take a little bit of vulnerability and open up, get help? What do you think is important, an important message that we should say?
It's usually really hard to tell people what they should be doing just because, you know, they sometimes don't believe it. Like you could tell somebody they're like, oh, they're beautiful, or, you know, you are great at doing this, but, you know, sometimes they don't take it to mind, and it's like really hard for like people, like strangers like us, just to encourage them to think well of themselves.
Sure, anything?
No, sorry.
Well, a message. I feel like I know that I won't be able to, if it was just one short message, I don't know if I'll be able to say the best of the things, but like I want to say that, you know, for most kids, like, you're not alone. I think a lot of kids know that they're not alone. I think a lot of kids know that the kids around them are also dealing with something.
Sure.
And personally, I feel like for kids who knows that other kids are suffering at the same time as them, I feel like kids nowadays should like empower or be there for one another.
Sure.
Just like, you know, if you see a friend or you see somebody that's down, go up to them and be like, hey man, you okay? Check up on them, you know, because like, even though it may not be nothing too big, small things can go like a really big way. So yeah, personally, I feel like if I was to give a message, be like, if you see someone struggling, you know, maybe like just take like 2 seconds just to like check up on that person and be there for that person, and like, you know, because that could like really, that could really just make someone's day. Like that, like they could have a really bad day, but just those few good words could really make that person's week or day.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's really it's reassurance too for that person to be like he's not alone, even though maybe he feels like it.
So what I hear you say is, good friend, take the time to check in. And when you check in, then your presence make the other person feel like you care. And that might open up for them to tell you the thing that may not be so okay inside. And because remember, emotional pains are not visible. And so unless you ask, and then unless someone's willing to take the chance to share a little bit, we would never know, and that person end up suffering so much in silence. And that's why we talked tonight, and what I like about what you said is a good friend should check in. And that check-in presents an opportunity to the other person, said that I care about you, so you can tell me, right? And however slow you want to tell, but you can tell me, right? So, well, thank you for you being here. I think what you have shared are important, and I hope that as we put this video together, that all the young people will listen to what you said, and that will give them the permission to kind of open up and talk about some of their struggle. As I said, emotional pains are not visible, so unless we know about it, sometimes we don't know how to help them either, you know. What happens is that they end up suffering so much in silence. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay.